Welcome to the Mind Madam podcast, where we are here to talk about nervous systems, attachment, sex, trauma, and all of the patterns that are quietly ruining your life. It's going to be honest, direct. There is no guru voice, there is no therapizing, just brutal self awareness with a touch of dark humor because healing can be fun. This space is going to be mostly for men. If you're a woman, you are welcome too, as long as you appreciate directness. Some of these episodes are going to be solo, some of them with guests, but all of them are designed to challenge the way that you look at yourself and help you progress. So let's get into it. Welcome back to your next episode of the Mind Madam podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth, and I'm coming to you today with some food for thought. As usual, it is a podcast, but it's this. It doesn't matter how bad you want something, whether it's the raise, the partner, the body, the relationship, the family. If your identity doesn't agree with it, it ain't happening. That's right, my friends. You can hustle, you can journal, you can manifest, you can do all the Pinterest self-care. You can share and recite your affirmations daily in front of the mirror. But if the story that you believe about yourself doesn't match the life you're trying to build, you're going to keep sabotaging or pulling back without even realizing it, because you don't get what you want. You don't become what you want. You get what you think you are, because your identity is the filter of that. And when I say identity, I do not mean your name, your job, the music you like. I mean the story that you believe about yourself. The one that you likely learned in childhood, the I'm a fixer, I'm the strong one, I'm too much, I'm not enough, I'm too emotional. All of those projections from others. It runs deeper than willpower. Okay, it is the lens your brain is going to use to decide what is safe, what is possible, and what is real and what people like you deserve. And it is sneaky. And that's part of the problem. You don't wake up at 8 years old and say, hey, I cannot wait to be the fixer of everyone's life. Or when I grow up, I really want to be a perfectionist. Like, no one is signing up for that. That sounds awful. Or I'm really looking forward to some terrible relationships down the road. It's built slowly, and it's built by conditioning, family roles, trauma, heartbreak. I mean, there is a saying, how do you kill a lobster? Not saying I condone it, but you put them in a pot and you slowly turn the heat up until they don't realize what's happening. And that's how our identity is built. So you learned early what earns love, what avoids conflict, what keeps you safe, what actions or reactions do you constantly see from close people around you? What are the words that they're using to describe their situation? Are they positive? Are they negative? So an example is, imagine you grew up being praised for helping everyone. Okay. And then you start to believe that, well, I'm valuable when I am useful. Well, you wouldn't think it's that big of a deal, but fast forward 20 years. Now you're overgiving at work, friendships, relationships, not because you want to, but because your nervous system thinks that's survival. That's your identity. That is what is normal. That is who you are, even if it's not who you want to be. And that idea will constantly be reinforced through your patterns without you even realizing, because most of what we do in life is on autopilot. If it wasn't, we could never run our lives. No one can sit there and be like, okay, I have to inflate my lungs. Okay, I have to look left. Okay, move your arm, move your leg. You could never do it. We run on autopilot for a reason, because there is so much going on. And because of that, this behavior, this identity is going to get reinforced. You're going to have a belief, and then that's going to create the behavior from the pattern. It's going to give you the outcome, even if you didn't want it. And that's when you're going to be saying, see, I was right. I knew all along this is exactly what I thought would happen. So let's take through a couple core examples. I am a big proponent of examples. I think people learn better when they can see themselves in the situation. So we're going to go through a common one, the I am not enough. That is the core identity. I'm not enough. So imagine this. You text a friend asking if they want to hang out this weekend, and they don't respond right away. Maybe they leave you on red. So stressful for some people. I was one of them. So your identity now kicks in. Well, now we go in this thought spiral. Well, I must have done something wrong. They left me on red. Well, obviously, I'm not important enough for them to get back to me. How rude of that. Okay, well, I have to go and fix this now. I've done something. So next thing you know, you're texting, you're over giving to fix it, you're offering to drive, to pay, and just creating this whole new narrative that wasn't even truthful. When they finally do respond, because your friend was busy, because we all lead busy lives, no one can respond right away. You're already burned out and resentful that they never got back to you in a time that you were expecting. And that tension they can feel. Now, this hey note feels very off and uncomfortable. Maybe they even pull back, and boom, there we go. See, I knew it. I'm never enough. I'm not even worth it to you. And that is your cycle completing. It is a loop that just continues to go round and round and round to reinforce what you believe. But what if we have a core identity of the strong one? And I mean, that should be a good trait. And it's not that it's a bad trait, but it can lead to hyper independence. Because here's what happens when you're always the strong one. And I am so guilty of this pattern. This is one that I'm still working on to come out of, because when you are hyper independent to a fault in trauma, this is a very big one that gets established. So imagine being the strong one, your friend is having, a rough week. You immediately jump in and you help them fix it. You're listening for hours, you're offering advice, you're even rearranging your schedule to help. But you never ask for support. You might be going through a whole bunch of shit, but you're never going to say, you're never going to ask, because you are the strong one and you can handle it. And if you have to ask, that means you can't handle it. And it means you're not the strong one, which goes against everything your identity believes. Weeks later, you are now exhausted and no one's checking in on you because you've trained them not to. They don't think you need help because you've never wanted it or needed it in the past, and you've never communicated it. You may start to resent, and you also double down. See, I knew it. I knew I could not rely on anyone. I have to handle everything myself. It always ends up this way. No one is showing up for me. No one wants to help me. Again, cycle complete. And this is how that identity traps you. Your brain craves proof of whatever you already believe. So, episode 2, confirmation bias, this establishes you will look for things to reinforce what you believe to be true. It's going to create a behavior and a pattern that makes the story come true, even if it hurts you. And honestly, especially if it hurts you. And you're probably thinking, well, if identity is this painful, why wouldn't you change it? And that's a great question. Of course, it would make sense, wouldn't it? But the body and the brain don't work on logic. Not at first. In fact, that is the last line of defense. First, it works on threat and survival. Next, it works on emotion. And the last line is logic that you use to justify the emotion. That's why people think they make logical decisions all day long. So if it's bad for us, why are we clinging to this terrible identity that we didn't want? And not all identity is bad, because in order to create the new identity you want, you're going to have to look to the positives, which I will be going over at the end. But there's a special reason why, even when it's wrong, even when it doesn't give you good outcomes, even when it's toxic, why we still do it. And number one is your brain hates being wrong. How often do you love being wrong? I don't think there's a lot of people putting up their hands to be like, I was wrong again. No, that feels like a threat to your brain, and your brain's job is to keep you safe. So when your actions and beliefs don't match up, then your body starts freaking out. Then it starts that new pattern, that constant loop, just to bring you back to safety. So think of this belief. Maybe you have the belief of, I'm just bad at relationships. And then you get into a relationship with a quality partner and someone who is actually respectful, listening to you, understanding you, working with you. But you're just like, well, this isn't right. Like, your brain, you might not even consciously realize it. You don't relax. You're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, because this is what's happened in the past. I'm bad at relationships. You're being good to me. This doesn't make sense to my brain. That's not what's supposed to happen. That relationship's probably going to be self-sabotaged because of this. Your identity does not recognize this new version. And we also have familiar feels safer than the unknown. Your nervous system thinks that predictability and safety are the same things. It did not get the definitions right. Even if that predictability is chaos, if it's uncomfortable, if it's toxic, it already knows what patterns to put in place to navigate that terrible terrain. Even though it sucks, those patterns are already established, and it's like your body is running ops, but bad ops, old ops, ops you don't want anymore. And then there is this one, and that is that identity did once keep you alive, and it did once help you survive. If we're wrong about our identity, then we have to face grief, regret, or shame for all the years we lived with this. And I don't know many people who wholeheartedly sign up for that. Not many do. That takes actual effort to pay attention to that and work through those feelings. And most of the time, the brain will interrupt and avoid that because it does not want to deal with it, because it is painful, or it can be if you have a lot of shame attached to it. And then, of course, other people are going to reinforce it. We hang around people all the time. If they know you as the strong one, if they know you as a perfectionist, if they know you as the one who's always chaotic, they're going to reinforce it. Think of it this way: if someone calls you a strong one, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, that can be a compliment. But in your head, if you're the strong one, then you have the pressure to stay strong all of the time, even when you're breaking inside, even when you do need help. Sometimes, yes, you need help, and that's okay. But I have good news because I didn't just start this podcast to dump all over your life and just give you like, oh, pain and shame and all of that. Yay. No, that would be a terrible concept for a podcast. That's not why we're here. Your identity is changeable, but you don't start by forcing a whole new identity. That's way too big of a leap. That is actually where most people get it wrong. They want to make all of these changes at once. Well, I'm sorry, but your brain is going to short circuit because this is not what it's expecting. That creates a very daunting task. It's like the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Only one bite at a time. That's what we have to stick with. So we're going to start by becoming aware of the pattern and of the identity that we chose. And we're going to ask ourselves some questions. Number one, what is my identity to begin with? This is going to take some self-reflection. Do not expect, you don't get A pluses for this. It's going to take a moment. What is your identity? Now, are you the perfectionist? Are you the fixer? Are you in shape? Are you healthy? Are you out of shape? Are you not healthy? Bad relationships? Anything like that. Now ask yourself, did you choose this identity? Did you personally choose it? Or did it come from criticism and praise that you heard from everyone else? That's going to take a moment to reflect because a lot of the time we haven't paid attention. It just got built slowly over time, like I said in the beginning. Now, these next three questions are important, and that is, what is this identity giving you? Because even if it's unwanted outcomes, it is giving you something. It's likely giving you safety, is number one. Safety in that predictable outcome. Maybe it's giving you significance because you're holding on to pain. Now, what is that identity costing you though? Because you got to pay to play. And for whatever it's giving you, there's also a cost. And so we need to reflect on what is it that it's taking away from us, because it is taking something. Say you want a different outcome. Now we're going to ask, who do I have to become to get what I really want? Who do I have to become to get that raise? Who do I have to become to be able to navigate those hard conversations? Who do I have to become to have a relationship I always wanted? Then we are going to create a new micro action because, again, small steps lead to big results. We get new actions that create new evidence that build a new identity. This is just skill building. That's all it is. Now, I want to make this real, and I want to show you how I would navigate through these questions, and you can see where you fit into these examples. Some of these are actually patterns that I've had in the past. So no, I'm not perfect. I am human as well. And anything that I teach on is usually things that I have worked through myself, because I feel like unless you have the skills, the credibility, how are you going to teach anyone else? So I'm going to let you into some of my personal patterns. Number one is a healthy relationship. Say your goal is you want a healthy and secure relationship, but your identity that is actually running the show is I'm not enough and I have to earn love. And especially if you're a millennial, that's one of the most common ones, that you are not enough and you have to earn it. Well, what that will give you and what it gave me, that old identity of not enough, is a sense of purpose, or even in earning love, a sense of purpose in fixing people, or feeling needed meant feeling valuable. So you would go and fix people, you would see the potential in them, and you would hang on far too long. And what it costs is hanging on far too long, attracting emotionally unavailable partners that are never going to rise to the occasion, constant anxiety and second guessing yourself because you're not getting reciprocity that you want and deserve, and then burnout from proving yourself. I mean, who does it ever feel good to prove yourself into love? Of course not. That is so devaluing. It's so disempowering as a person. So, say you want this good relationship, this healthy relationship, you want to attract healthy people. Who do you have to become? Well, you're going to have to be someone who believes that you are worthy of love exactly how you are. Yes to growth. Yes, we can always be better versions of ourselves, but you also have to accept who you are right now. You would have to become someone who doesn't over-explain or chase or prove value. And let me tell you, when you let that go, it is absolutely liberating. The amount of energy that you will expend trying to over-explain, chase, or prove, exhausting. You also have to be someone who can survive someone leaving, because your worth is not up for debate. In fact, you are a human being. You don't have to prove that you are worth anything, but you do have to decide what you will and will not tolerate. Your microaction. This is going to be especially true for those of you who are dating or talking to people. When that anxiety comes up, they're not being reciprocal like you want, you're not getting them to open up like you want. Before texting more, pause. Ask yourself and sit with it a moment. Would Secure Me send this? And if the answer is no, don't send it. And yes, this takes restraint. Restraint is a skill that you build. It's not a skill that you're born with. Let's talk about career success. Say you wanted to lead a team or get promoted, but your identity, especially from childhood, you're behind the scenes. You're not seen, you're just the helper. Don't worry about me, humble to a fault. What that's giving you is safety, because you're not getting judged. You're not fully putting yourself out there. It's also giving you predictability as you stay in the background. But here's what it's going to cost you. You are going to be invisible. It does not feel good to be invisible. That can make you feel like you are not worth it. It's also going to give some resentment that starts to build, especially when overlooked. And then there's going to be no growth or recognition. So even though, yeah, it's giving you something, it's going to cost you an awful lot. What if you wanted to become the person who gets the raise, who gets promoted, who leads the teams? Well, you're going to have to be someone who believes that your voice adds value. Okay? Not everyone is good at everything. We need offsets to fulfill the deficits in our skills. So you have a skill, you have a gift that someone else doesn't have, and that needs to be shared. You also have to be someone who is willing to be seen and take up space. That one is a very, very hard one, especially if you are a victim of abuse, because being seen really meant illegal, didn't feel good. It really didn't feel safe. You also have to be someone who can handle criticism without crumbling. It's not that we want criticism, but observations from well-meaning people who you would respect. We do have to take those into account. That's what helps us grow. We can't see our own blind spots. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means we have a deficit of skills that we need to work on. So what is your one micro action you can do for that? Speak up in the next meeting, even if it's uncomfortable. Raise your hand, ask a question, start making yourself known. It's funny, before I get on to the next one, when people read, the tips and tricks I give, usually what happens is, well, it's not easy though. Well, no, it's not. If it was easy, everyone would do it. But just because it's not easy doesn't mean it's not worth it. Yeah, it's going to take some skills to build. People spend so much time trying to look for the easy way out. By the time they've maybe found one, they're too exhausted to even take it. So either pay now or pay later, but either way, you have to pay to play. Problem is, if you pay later, interest is charged. That brings us to example number 3, and that is peace and stability. Now, this was a very big one for me. This can also come up a lot for those of us who are on the neurospicy side, who thrive in stimulation, but maybe you want a calm life instead of a chaotic one. But your identity is, I am perfect in a crisis and I thrive when there's drama. Well, here's what it gives you: excitement, because it's going to distract you from the deeper pain. This is one that I constantly got lost in, looking for outside stimulation, so I didn't have to reflect on what was going on inside, which was a lot of pain. It also gave me a sense of aliveness. When we constantly numb out on life, scrolling, TV, like not even sitting, paying attention to our inner world, you're going to want a sense of aliveness. I don't think anyone wants to go through life being bored. That's why sometimes we self-sabotage and create chaos. It's not healthy. But here's what it would cost. It's going to cost emotional exhaustion, right? I mean, I think we're all exhausted as is. Why would you want to load more on there? You're going to have unstable relationships with constant stress. You're going to self-sabotage every time something's going good, because when something's going good, that's not how it's supposed to go, like we talked in example number 1. But also, this is boring. Safety feels boring. But here's who you need to become if you want to attract that peace. You're going to have to be someone who believes that peace is not boring. It is just safety. You're going to have to be someone who chooses slow, steady routines over adrenaline, and someone who can sit in the discomfort without blowing things up. I remember talking to my therapist, especially as I came out of survival mode, and I had been in survival mode for 39 years, and especially so in the last 10 years, and especially so in the last 7 months. Well, as I was coming out of survival mode, I'm like, what do you do? Like, this is so boring. I don't get it. What am I thinking about? You need to just sit here? I just don't get how you find pleasure in this boredom. It makes my insides feel itchy. She said, well, it's not really about finding pleasure in it. First, you have to learn to tolerate the uncomfortableness of not having that constant stimulation. It took me time, but when I learned it was more about tolerating it instead of happy, shiny unicorns where everything is great, that helped because it felt more doable than just embrace it and love it and enjoy it. Well, I didn't in first, but I do now. There's some days that it's uncomfortable and I'd rather have stimulation, but I'm not going to go blow up my life for it. So what is the micro action we're going to do today? This one's actually inaction. So when things are feeling too quiet, you're not going to create chaos. You're going to sit in the tension, because your level of success really correlates to your ability to sit in discomfort. And I don't mean toxic discomfort. I mean growth discomfort, where you're stretching and you're expanding. If you can't sit in that, then you are not going to grow. There's no other way around it. It's pretty black and white. So yeah, it's a lot to sit with. But here's the thing: if you made it to the end, most people never even stop to ask. They never even stop to reflect on what identity is running the show. They just keep running the same plays, burning themselves out, wondering why they can't get what they want. And spoiler, this is where people pleasing really sneaks in. And people pleasing is a huge pattern that a lot of people have. That's actually what I'm going to be talking about in the next episode. How people pleasing really isn't kindness. No, it's actually survival. And it inadvertently makes you a liar. Not out of malice, but you are either going to lie to someone else to keep them happy, or lie to yourself to say that you didn't need it. And that is not a healthy way to go through life. So we're going to go through why it feels impossible to stop, the sneaky ways it shows up, even ways you probably haven't even realized, especially in your parenting, relationships, work, the ways that no one really talks about. So if you've ever said, I'm just a helper, I hate conflict, or I don't want to disappoint anyone, the next episode I would suggest will hit home for you. So I will catch you there, and thanks for listening today. All right, so that's it for today's episode of the Mind Man podcast. If something hit home for you, share it, send it to a friend, or even just sit with it for a moment and reflect. That's really where the real work starts. And if you want more tools or just keep the conversation going, you can find me over on Threads and Instagram at The Mind Madam, at my website, www.themindmadam.com. Check out the links in the show notes for that. And remember, you're not broken. You're not a toy that needs to be discarded. You're just running old patterns, and you can rewrite those anytime you decide to.